You're muted, Paul. Mark. Mark. Paul is still muted.
Excited for this today. I cannot tell you
There
how
you go.
much. We have an extremely special episode of DC Dark Crisis Deep Dive today. We're going to bring on Jeremy Adams, and we'll bring him on right after this. As we said, this is a special live edition of DC Dark Crisis Deep Dive. As always, I'm Paul Cook. He is
I'm Mark.
Mark. Don't forget, this is Mark. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification button, do all those good things before you forget. I am not going to keep this man waiting any longer. I am so thrilled that we were able to have Jeremy Adams, the man himself, join us for this
Hey,
episode. And look, there he is.
what, that opening got me amped, man. Right on.
Every time, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's totally got me amped.
It makes us need answers, is what it makes me feel.
Yeah.
I love that you think I'm going to give you any. Suckers.
I'm just fishing for an
So-
NDA case. That's all I'm doing.
Exactly. For those of you who may not know, Jeremy is the author. He's the writer of the current Flash comic, the wildly successful Flash comic, which is deep in the throes of Dark Crisis right now. The first installment was already out, and it's already gone to a second printing. Congratulations on that.
Oh, thrilled. Thrilled.
Yeah. Absolutely. You're also co-authoring Flashpoint Beyond, and we're going to get to that
Right.
as well. And then he also is the writer or the co-writer of so many DC animated movies like Soul of the Dragon, Teen Titans Go versus Teen Titans, Justice Society, World War II, the Showcase Short Blue Beetle, the DC Comics
was
Lego animated movies, and the one coming up that I'm pumped for, Batman and Superman, Battle of the Super Sons.
Oh, man.
That was announced last week too.
I am so excited for everybody to see that one. You do not even know. Like, I'm
Exactly.
so excited.
And that's not even including all the stuff you did for Supernatural, and
Yep.
you do Monkey Kid, and you do Scribble Knots and Scooby Doo, and everything else that you do. So I don't know how you fit all that into a week.
Oh, well, listen. They got the money, honey. I got the time. Is that how it works? You know? So it's like if somebody's offering, I'm like, yes, let's do it.
What do you need me, and for how long? Right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, professional writing, it's something that I've wanted to do for so long that once they allowed me in, my biggest weakness is it's hard for me to say no, because I keep thinking they're going to kick me out. So
I hadn't realized how extensive your DC Comics work was before you even started writing a physical DC comic.
I know, right? I mean, it's a weird thing because if you talk to 8-year-old Jeremy, this is the logical conclusion of my career. My dad had drawn comics in the DC Comics, a couple of them in the 70s and 80s. And but my parents were divorced very early, and that was always a safe place we could talk about things. And I know Steve Burke. What? Come on.
Exactly.
Anyways, so that was always a safe place. And I just, I've loved comics my entire life. And everything I had done in TV and movies and stuff, I'd always been pushing to see if I can get into comics. And there had always been a bunch, like when Batwing happened, I remember pitching, like the editor at the time, I had met him when I was working at a toy company as an assistant. And he let me pitch on Batwing. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. I'm getting close. And that was 10 years ago, So it just goes to show you, you just got to keep persevering because that was like 10 years ago. And finally now, I'm doing comics.
You made
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. And you're crushing it. Before we get to some questions, let's just take a look at the chat. So wheelchair superhero, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
We've got the man himself, Burke. Jim, thanks for joining us as well. Pops is out there. And let's see what we got. So Burke is saying that he just paused the animated movie The Judas Contract.
Just
That was
to
nice
watch.
of you to
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
to watch.
I love doing this
Um,
animation. Doing Soul of the Dragon was such a fun ball. All of those animated DC things are really fun to work on.
Yeah. Maybe you can tell us about some more that you're working on before you're done. But let's talk about we want to talk about Dark Crisis. So let's start with the Flash. You basically started the Dark Crisis tie-in. First of all, how did that come about? I see it coming about in one of two ways. Either you get told by your editor they're doing Dark Crisis and the Flash is going to be part of it, or you
Right.
busting into your editor's office saying, if you're doing a crisis, the Flash is going to be part of it. I don't care what you say.
I mean, because there's no offices anymore, and
Right.
it's such a weird thing, because when I started DC, the company has been sold and bought like 3 times in the last 6 years. But what happened was I had become friendly with Joshua Williamson. He had been, when I started writing The Flash, he'd been such an encouraging voice. I didn't know him prior to that. And we just started kind of talking back and forth, and he would, he's just being very friendly and kind of showing me the ropes in a lot of ways. As I started getting my feet under me for The Flash. I mean, this is the guy that did like the longest run of The Flash, so
Epic run, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was cool to be able to kind of chat with him. And so he's the one spearheading all the Dark Crisis stuff. And he said, hey, would you want to tie in? And if you're a fanboy like me, and I'm fairly new to comics, and they're like, hey, you want to be part of the event? It's like, I'm like pushing out of the way, like, heck yeah, dude, like, tell me what I need to do,
Right.
Now you're like super tied in.
Yeah. And he kind of told me, like, listen, I need you to go find Barry, and here are the really small parameters. You got 3 issues to go find Barry, and he's on this planet. And I'm like, okay. And so everything else I just kind of just went a little bonko on and started putting it together. And Amanke, who's doing the pencils, he's just been fantastic. And
that's not a long time to tell a story, just 3 issues. So it's kind of impressive how, like, I've been reading the entire run, so it's kind of cool this first tie-in issue, how you're using like what you've already set up with this with your start on Flash to kind of like springboard off of, with them being able to follow the different trails and everything. Just that was pretty cool. That was one thing I thought, like, yeah, thanks for paying off the people who've been reading this run from the first of it. Like,
well,
that's appreciated.
I got to tell you, like, there's a lot of stuff that I want to pay off for the people that have been reading it. But sometimes, like the War for Earth 3, it was like, I wanted to get to Linda and her power set earlier. And it was like, hey, we got to do this thing. I'm like,
there's too much going on. No way.
So, and obviously I've started pulling in more characters. I've really fallen in love with the kids and Maxine and like, it's kind of just building and building, but there's still a lot of loose threads out there, like what they're working on at Terrific Tech and some other things. I still want the calculator to get a comeuppance from Wally for even attempting to take his children or whatever. But yeah, I've got a few threads that I'm going to be trying to close as many as I can in the next year. But with Dark Crisis, just because I'm tying into this event, I really wanted it to be something where if you're following the Flash, you're also not like, oh man, they're not talking about anything that happened, the issue before, or that you can just read this book and get a lot out of it. It's a fun adventure outside of Dark Crisis too, even though it ties into Dark Crisis. Because, I remember being a kid and we didn't have a comic book store in my town, and it was like 7-Eleven, and it would be like, you got issue 5 of 8. And I'd be like, well, where's issue 6 of 8? And it's like, oh, well, so I want to be able to like make something that people can follow, but you also don't have to be so involved that, you pick it up and you're lost. Like, I think anybody can pick this up and kind of figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Tie in proper.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And that's one of the things that Mark brought up. And the last thing we did is so many times in some of these companies when they do these tie-ins, it's like just really kind of like a peripheral tie-in. Like people, poke their head in, like it's like it's Batman and Robin climbing the building, and they poke their head out and then they go back.
Yeah.
And it's like this tie-in actually is integral to the story, to the whole story. So it's not something that is just kind of we just threw a Dark Crisis banner across the top and see what happens.
Right. And I was thrilled to do it. And so I would kind of hit Josh up and like I said, part of the fun too is like, the way the Flash tie-in is developed is like you said, there's kind of 3 different stories going on, but also I feel like part of my job and part of the thing I really love is I'm in a position where they're letting me put more toys in the toy box. I get to create a few more characters and create a couple things and ideas and throw them in the toy box. That's just been the best.
So like Paul just mentioned like the Dark Crisis banner on the top of the Flash book. Why isn't there one on Flashpoint? Oh, there's the answer I was looking for. Boom, got it.
Flashpoint Beyond is another corner of the DC universe at the same time. And I'm learning a lot from Jeff Johns, FYI.
We've talked about that. I don't think it's a coincidence that this is happening while Jeff Johns all of a sudden just stepped back up. And we've talked about how Joshua Williamson has the potential to be like the next generation's Jeff Johns with the way that he crafts stuff and the way that he has this ridiculous deep understanding of DC history and everything. And we have a crisis going on, and Jeff Johns shows back up.
Listen, I don't know about any conspiracy. I mean, listen, our book was originally slated to come out, I think it was weekly or something.
Weekly, it was. Yep, it was. That was originally announced as a weekly.
I mean, the reality is Jeff has got TV shows and movies and stuff he's doing. And when we met, we just kind of broke this like a television show in a room, Tim, Jeff, and I, and really just kind of started breaking story and writing scripts and collaborating together. It's been amazing. And Jeff does have an encyclopedic knowledge of DC Comics. But one of the things that's so great about him too is that he doesn't want your story not to mean anything.
Right.
Like he wants it to mean something, not just to the comic, but to the world,
Yes.
And that's been really, really fun to watch little tidbits and stuff.
Knowing that it got switched up to a monthly and kind of pushed back a little bit, where the last 2 pages in each issue, how that kind of switches from our Flashpoint world to like what I can only assume is Earth Zero Batman talking to the Time Masters and messing with the Dr. Manhattan's trinkets. Was that stuff added in after the fact, or was that originally part of the story?
No, that was kind of part of it. Part of the reason it was pushed is just because we wanted Zermanico to be able to do the entire book.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Because he's unreal. Yeah, no, listen, when we get those pencils, it's just like, the magic people are doing magic things again. I'm constantly in awe of artists. I'm like,
witchcraft.
Yeah. Like when I did that issue with Kevin Maguire, which is like fulfilled lifelong dreams, and I get this panel back and I'm like, this is better than anything I could have imagined, because these people are, like I said, magic people, and it's kind of ridiculous that they're able to have that talent and skill. I just had an interview at the first time I had ever met Aman K on a Zoom today. He looks like Jensen Ackles. First of all, what's up with all these like artists being talented but also like good looking? It's irritating. Like that's not allowed. You know what I mean?
We've been calling Flashpoint Beyond a stealth crossover,
right?
With because one of the first things that happened is you end up with the Psycho Pirate coming over, leaving and getting away from Dark Crisis. So you have someone who has been so integral to all of the crises throughout the years suddenly showing up in Flashpoint Beyond. It's like, this cannot just be a coincidence.
And then issue 3 drops, and then you have him hiding in hyper time from the crisis, and we get like they've been teasing Dr. Manhattan, then we see Dr. Manhattan. We haven't seen Dr. Manhattan since Doomsday Clock, and like I can't think of a more epic reveal than Dr. Manhattan being integral in this somewhere, some way, if only for a short minute. But I feel like something like a Great Darkness would be something that would actually spark that man's interest, and we know that's how he operates. He's detached, so it just takes some really big stuff to catch his attention. So that's one thing that me and Paul, because we throw theories out. You don't have to answer these obviously, but we throw theories out on this, like these deep dives we do. Like we fanboy over this stuff and think about, like, we don't speculate on money with comics. We speculate on the stories, and that's just what's so fun about it, to talk about it and wonder what happens next. And at this point, that's just where our best fan speculation of the story it takes us, is that Dr. Manhattan has an amazing but small part to play in all this somewhere along the way. If he's not even just the big eyes in the sky that we're seeing on the covers.
Yeah, well, we got the eyes on every single cover. We have that special announcement that you guys are going to do at San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah. Just go and tell us what that is. That'd be cool.
Watch me get shot from a window.
Yeah.
Open my mouth.
Wow, those snipers are good.
I mean, it's all I can say is it's really fun to be involved.
Yeah, that's fun.
Mean, it's like
it's fun to read.
Fun to be involved, but I think Flashpoint Beyond has been like it is like a stealth. I mean, it's funny. I think it's been doing fairly well, but it's just a really weird thing to be a comic fan that's suddenly turned comic book writer, that's now involved in two things going on at the same time. Is really intense. And I'm going to be there at Comic-Con next week. I'm super excited to be up on the panel. I've never met Tom King, and I've never met Josh in person. And so I'm very excited. I'm trying to like tamp down my nerdy excitement.
That warms my heart that's the first name you say, because I sing that man's praises constantly too.
Yeah,
like, he's a phenomenal writer.
He there's so many. I'm just really happy to be here, honestly. And with the Flash stuff, man, it's like I'm so pumped that people have come for Dark Crisis, and I was surprised how many people didn't know Wally is the Flash. That just had no idea that he was the guy with the mantle, and so the first trade that has the first arc is coming out right after Comic-Con, but it's just an exciting time because I feel like we've been making a really fun book, a book that everybody can kind of get into, that's kind of crazy and all over the place. And it's neat that this is what's drawn a bunch of people in to check it out.
Kind of talking on that about like people not knowing that Wally's a current Flash, and you brought up Tom King, but that man really left a lot on your plate. When it comes to the fans. And it's no secret that a lot of people were they took it personally what happened with Wally and Heroes in Crisis. I'm a lifelong Wally fan because of my age. I grew up with Wally being my Flash on TV and comics and everything. And I didn't feel personally slighted by that move. I thought like that was a really important story to tell at that time, with the amount of loss and grief that character would have been suffering. It was making him very real. But the way that you transitioned him back in that redemption arc was just like, dude, I was absolutely stunned in that final issue of that first arc. Like absolutely stunned, like teary-eyed when Rory gave him that final little look and let the arrow fly. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. Like it got me, dude, big time.
Yeah, I think that was like, for me, just writing it was like an important piece, because I don't think I like I said, I don't know Tom King. He could assassinate me on stage, for all I know. But generally, I mean, if you're a comic fan, you know that all you do is kind of go back and forth and mess with continuity and do this and do that. And it doesn't subtract from his story at all. It's just a different element of the story. And it's also one you can ignore if you want, I guess. But I not only did I want, it changed a little bit during the course of it. I wanted Wally really to save everyone. And they said, no, you can have one. You can basically have one. I was like, okay. It's not that you can't save anybody was the thing. And I was just like, but can I get a scene with Roy?
Yes.
And they let me do that. And that was really fun. That was one of the highlights. And that was that was like my first 6 books,
Bro, it crushed me. It absolutely crushed me. Because like leading up to that, we had Heroes in Crisis.
Yeah.
We had a Flash Forward, which I'm like that put him in the right direction.
Yeah.
And then we had the what was it, the last days of the DC universe, the one shot during the metal event where Rory was there and he just kind of gave Wally the nod.
Right.
And then when you did that, like it was just first off that was what a great introduction, like just bouncing around, a great way to get reintroduced to the whole Flash family.
Right.
Even the old Super Friends issue, dude. I laughed from start to finish. I could hear Luther's voice off the pages, just evil, you know, like
I know, right?
it was amazing. And then like they top it off of that. When I saw the cover, I'm like,
yeah,
this is about to get real. And it did, man, it was amazing. And then from there, it just hit the ground running. Like it felt like we were here this whole time, like Wally had never gone anywhere.
Right.
But all that baggage is gone, but all of his experience is still there. It was so smooth, man. Big ups to you for that one.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that was definitely my intention was to get myself acclimated with the Flash family in that moment, you know, and just to kind of like, and you can see, because even after that, as I started building, you know, Wally and his job and Linda and the kids, and now it's the Flash family. And, you know, next year there's going to be a nice little Flash event. And I'm really excited for it. So it's something where I want to introduce all these characters and I want to kind of like understand them. And in the Stark Crisis tie-in, that's been a real something I've explored, because I really wanted to get into the characters like Max.
Yes, you know, Max Mercury.
Right.
Yes.
And just thinking about who he is as somebody that is a person out of time, and how he was this kind of like way back in the 1800s, you know, and just like he might talk in kind of strange, anachronistic, you know, cowboy talk or whatever. And I really find myself wanting to know more about Jesse Quick. Like Jesse Quick is something that's really I found myself. Yeah. And then, but I mean, I couldn't use Bart just because he's in Young Justice. But I'm excited at some point. Hopefully, I can bring Bart in and do some stuff with him, because I love Bart. You know,
that's assuming Bart comes back from wherever he is.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. If they let me, you know,
right.
it's always one of those things where I'll send it up the flagpole. Can I use this person? They're like, no. Right. You know, originally instead of Mr. Terrific, I wanted to do Ted Kord because I'm such a huge Blue Beetle fan. Dude. And they were like, no, and I was like, oh. So then I was like, I was just thinking, like, who could I use? And I was like, oh, can I use Mr. Terrific? And in my head, I always felt like he was kind of written. This is not a diminishing of who's written him. It's just very kind of Vulcan-like, you know, kind of emotionless.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, can we make him more like Buckaroo Banzai? You know,
nice. Yeah.
You know, like
some Peter Weller in here.
Yeah, well, just that he's a little more of a rock star. He, like, you know, he has all these Jiffy Lubes. He has all these companies. We don't even know how many companies he has. That's just all that money's going into his scientific endeavors, you know. And I thought that would be kind of cool. And I would love to do more with him. And obviously Maxine Baker. I started writing her, and I was like, "This is great. She's hilarious."
So I'm just kind of curious, like a little bit on the behind the scenes things of being a creator. When you send stuff up the flagpole, as you put it, and they tell you can't use that character, is it like, because DC's kind of known for having that more loose continuity right now, giving the creators more room to do stuff than they have previously. So how often does that happen, and what's like the primary reason they kind of turn down an idea? Is it because they already have them slated for something, or they just don't want him branded right now because they got the movie coming up? And
at the time it was because Dan Jurgens was doing the Blue and Gold series, and so Lost in Comics. So they were doing the Blue and Gold series, and I think they just didn't want to, you know, have anything done in there that
Chris Carlson.
Yeah. So
one other Blue Beetle question, because
hit me with Blue Beetle questions. I freaking love Blue Beetle. Let's go.
I was about to say I watch all the DC animated movies since day one, and the showcases that they started doing way back in the day with the Spectre, like those have been like some of the most exciting things to come out of them. And that Blue Beetle one was an absolute blast. It was clearly a mixture of like the 60s Spider-Man show, but the fact that it wasn't just Blue Beetle, you pulled out all the Charlton characters that the Watchmen are based off of. So
that was one of that was one of the first books I ever picked up, was a Blue Beetle #1, Modern Comics, before it was Charlton Comics. Mm-hmm. So Steve Ditko, Ted Kord stuff, and I became slightly obsessed with it. with Ted Cord, and like I have all the Len Wein run, most of the Charlton stuff, and then I would like get back into the Dan Garrett stuff. I was like, oh my gosh! And if you remember Countdown, what had happened was he had the Scarab and he brought it up to Wizard Shazam, and then that fight with Spectre, the Rock of Eternity blew up, and then the Scarab landed, and that's why Jaime got it. That was the original, at least, origin for that Blue Beetle. And I remember I told Jeff this. I was so mad at him because that Countdown is where Max
shot Blue Beetle.
I was
right, shot him. Yeah.
I mean, they're lucky they didn't have Twitter, because then I would never be able to work with Jeff again. I was so furious.
Wonder Woman handled it for you.
Oh, yeah, I know, that's true. And I told him, I go, you simultaneously wrote one of my favorite Blue Beetle stories, and you also killed him. And I was like, I was so mad. But then he kind of brought him back in the Booster Gold series that he did with John. Was it John? I forget the other person he co-wrote that with. But yeah, the short, the DC short was, I was working at Supernatural, and Jim Krieg, who's been kind of my mentor, and he's a producer at Warner Brothers. He and Rick Morales is the supervising producer, and we've done like 10 movies together. And we were having lunch, and they said, hey, could you do the story for this? And I was like, yeah, heck, are you kidding me? And we just kind of, Jim's a huge Spider-Man animated series nut. And we just kind of like, it all kind of formulated right then. And obviously there's all these little animation hiccups, and
the attention to detail, like the inking changes color, and from one frame to another.
And the theme song's unbelievable, and it's like, oh my gosh, I could watch the show. I could totally watch the show. Even if they did it now with all that messed up stuff, I would totally be in. So to be able to do it is remarkable. And then we handed it off, and the scripting went well, and it was fantastic. I love it. I love all those showcase. Ernie Altbacker did the Constantine one, and he's incredible too.
God.
Yeah.
I watched that with my 4-year-old.
Oh, oops.
No, he sat there bug-eyed, like, are they killing him? I'm like, yeah, again. But luckily, I was able to say he gets better. See, he gets better. But then the Spectre showed up, and even my 4-year-old knows who the Spectre is. He's like, there he is, and like, what a grand way for him to show. I'm like, dude, this is amazing. I wish it was longer. Yeah, those things.
Yeah,
crush those.
You had talked about being a fanboy, and now you basically are writing the Flash. I just have to say that really comes through, I think, in your writing. The fanboy part of it, you can tell. I mean, just little things like Mr. Terrific has free lunches. That's the fact that in the latest issue, right? Wally's son says, Dad's going to go back in time and change history, so the kids will listen.
Yeah. It's all the little things that like I think about, and also with Jay and Ira, like I just think about if they had like my kid. I have 2 kids, and they're precocious, and I can't imagine if one of them had super speed, like it would be real hard, and I love the fact that they are, there was the issue. It was the same one with the kind of Super Friends Legion of Doom issue, where you have his future daughter, she's sitting there and she's saying like, I am a hero. You're the one who taught me to be this. So like, he knows that is the destiny of his kids, and his kids kind of know it too. So they can kind of push their advantage. Like, hey, you're supposed to be helping us. We've got powers, and if you're not going to help us, we're going to just grab this thing and jump in and see what happens. But even in that, they're kids. So they make a mistake. They land in this world where, it's kind of a pseudo Gotham, vibe. And yeah, it's really cool. I can't wait.
We still didn't get the reveal of what exactly kind of Batman we're dealing with that came up behind him, or if it even is Batman. Well, we see like the whole Back to the Future 2 Biff Tannen style building for Batman there.
Yeah. The Night Flash. So yeah, I'm excited for people to see more of that.
Right. Then we have the Mad Max Flash.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, I thought that was funny because Wally's first job, he was trying to be a mechanic, and then fast forward to this issue, we see Flash with a throttled out Mad Max car.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, even before 782 or 781, I forget, Ace and Wally go to the Speed Lab, and he's got a car in there that he's just kind of like putting together. It's a total mess. and he's still a gearhead. And it was my old editor had said he does it because he does it to slow down. He does it he could put it all together, but he really wants to slow down. He wants to take his time with something. And I think that's really cool. I think that's a cool dimension to his character.
I think it's cool that you naturally call Wallace Ace.
It's funny. It was just a matter of like, man, we can't keep calling these guys the same thing. And I really liked Ace. And then I implemented it. And I don't know why I totally forgot that Batman's dog's name is Ace. But I was like, whatever, moving on. And what I'm going to try to do is that, Wally
change the sport here soon.
No, Wally's calling him Ace all the time. I think it's just going to start catching on, where it's like everybody, and he's going to be like, he's not happy about that,
Yeah, that dynamic that you set up between the two of them, and those two kind of just issues trying to bridge us over from the end of the one arc to the crisis stuff here. That was some like really heavy stuff as well. Just like him, like so lightheartedly delivering such a heavy message to Wallace, to Ace. The way that he took him out patrolling and everything. That was really well done. I wasn't expecting that. I'd even talked about I kind of talked about the book coming in, like it's probably going to be a filler issue. I don't know how important it'll be. And then you get it, and you're like, dude, everyone needs to read this. Like, this is really important because like Wally's the Flash, and the Flash has a kid Flash, and like it's building that relationship really for I don't know how long it's been since I've seen those two run together.
Yeah, I like the sidekick dynamic. It reminds me of my relationship with I'm more of the Ace compared to I have a cousin that was always constantly like kind of pushing the boundaries, and it's funny because I think Wally with his cousin is slightly different. He's looser. He's, a little more, smirky and let's get into trouble and stuff like that than he would be with normal superheroes because he's a cousin. And I have a cousin that was like that. He was just constantly the guy that was like, let's go do this. This will be so fun. And I'm like, no, we're not going to go do that. That's crazy. And he's like, oh, shut up. It's going to be great, And
but then everything plays out that it was all intentional, 100% intentional. We're here just getting ice cream. It's not ice cream. It's gelato. Try it. It's the best.
Because I think Wally's superpower is empathy. Somebody that has gone through so much and had so much taken away from him and experienced so much. And he's looking at this kid where his mentor Barry is gone. And he knows what it's like to be Kid Flash. And there's just this element of he's doing it in a way to reach him. And they're related, and he's at he's Titans Academy, and it's like, come with me, you're part of this family too. And part of that was because even when I was reading Williamson's run, which I love, there's so many characters, and there's so much stuff. I wanted to have like a quiet moment where we as the viewer could see them connecting, and we could be like, oh, I like this guy. I like this Kid Flash. I think this dynamic, to me, it really worked. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Now they can work together. Now they can do things together. And they can come in and out, so.
Yeah. And I also think that Dark Crisis in a lot of ways, from what we understand, is it's a lot about obviously the legacy heroes, and the mentors, and, and there's two levels to that in the Flash, right? There's Barry to Wally, there's Wally to Wallace, right? I think it's interesting. One thing that I see a lot of symmetry in this, in that one of the most important stories for Wally in the 90s was the return of Barry Allen.
Yeah.
Right. Now this is the search for Barry Allen.
Yeah.
Right. We had in Rebirth, Barry was the one who brought Wally out from where he was. Right. And now it's turned around, and now it's Wally trying to bring Barry back from where he is.
Yep. Ka is a wheel, as Stephen King would say. There's a certain element of, I think all these things, the things that really connect. But I also like to take things that like you just discussed and say, well, how can I change it slightly? How can I make it so that it's not exactly what you think it's going to be? So hopefully that is what you will see in the next couple. I mean, listen, it's
the easiest way to change things slightly is with Dr. Manhattan. Just look
at you. Mark Waid lives a couple blocks away from me, and I had no idea. And one day I was on Twitter and I saw that he was signing at the comic book store, and I was like, see you later, honey. Like to my wife, like grab the keys and like rushed over.
Grab my Kingdom Come books and run out the door.
I'm like, I introduced myself, and he's so complimentary, and we've had lunch a couple times, and he's just been so kind. And I think Flash in general owes a huge debt to that guy. And
he said thank you for the new World's Finest as well.
Oh my gosh, how good is it? But not only is it good, but Dan Mora's art
Dan Mora, God,
outrageous.
He is one of the hardest working artists.
I gotta say, man, like for all the craziness in comic books right now, DC is doing some like really cool, interesting, crazy stuff, and I love that.
And the quality across the board is like really, really amped up in the past couple of years here.
I agree.
It is nuts, and it all kicked off with Future State. It really did. Like a lot of people going into that were just so lost and so concerned because the whole 5G's coming, 5G's not coming. We sold the company, they bought the company. We're letting go of half the staff. We're tightening up, and we're bringing in younger creators. And those people came in trying to prove something and nailed it.
Yeah, that was
as a whole.
That was really intense. I mean, I literally, I was on a list and it was for 5G. And when the ideas they had for 5G were crazy, and I was just like, I was just like, but I don't care. Like I'll do it because I wanted to do comics so bad, And
I like we're still kind of in it, like in the fallout of it, obviously.
Well, and then and then Dan left, and there was all these whatever. And I honestly, the thing I was supposed to be slated to do was the Black Racer in the Worlds of War Superman book. That was the first one I was slated to do, but it just kept languishing. And I thought, oh man, I was so close. And then my buddy Tim Sheridan, the editor at the time, said, hey, I got this list of these animation writers. My name was on the list. What do you think of these names? And Tim's like, oh, Jeremy is a good friend of mine. You should give him a call. And that's when he asked me to do the Black Adam DC 1 million. And you can tell that, that's my first script, and there's a lot of words. And I was trying to figure it out, but I was having so much fun, and they let me introduce Gold Beetle, and I was like, oh my gosh, are you guys just going to let me do this stuff? And then it was
Never saw Gold Beetle again.
Yeah. And well, it won't be the last time.
I didn't realize you wrote, those were just 2 backup stories, right?
Yeah. So it was Black Racer backup and the Black Adam was a full size, but it was still a backup in Suicide Squad. And that had effect because they had this Black Adam that went back in time that became young Black Adam in Titans Academy. And, evidently he might be still around. I don't really know. I always ask about continuity. No one seems, but
the Teen Titans book kind of went off the continuity deep in at the end, like with the merging of Cyborg and Beast Boy. And now we're seeing them. And
I mean,
that was probably my favorite Future State book that they did, like with the whole apocalypse coming and how it was tying into Flash and everything. And then like the series just like it was all right for most of the way through. At the end, it just tuckered bad.
Well, Tim's a good friend of mine, and some of that is not in his control.
I'm sure
there was a lot of, I think, pressure and there was a lot of asks, that happened. Which was too bad. But he's an incredible writer. I mean, working with him on Flashpoint Beyond, I've worked with him for years though. We met a long time ago, and we were doing Justice League Action, those shorts that they're so great. And he did some of the best ones. I mean, absolutely the best ones. And we had such a ball doing that and became friends. But doing comic books together has been fun because it's kind of a wild west. It's very no pun intended, but it's definitely a crazy world, and I feel really blessed and lucky to be able to be one of the people that is continuing on with the series,
I was gonna ask you about that. I mean, do you just kind of sit back sometimes and just say, you have Gardner Fox and John Broom and Carrie Bates and Jeff Johns and Mark Waid, and now my name is along with those folks who basically have who get to write whatever iteration of the Flash it happens to be, but my name is with their names.
Yeah, it's a lot. it's really a lot. It's like I'll tell you, because I thought I was going to get fired every book, just my paranoia. Like I was just like, oh, this is over, and it wasn't. I don't think it was selling particularly well. It wasn't selling particularly bad, but it wasn't selling particularly well. And then fans kind of found it, and they started talking about it, and it kept rolling. And I think because it was more steady than it was losing, people were like, okay, we'll give them more of a chance. So after the first arc, I was like, well, at least there's something with my name on it, they could collect, and it's like, oh, look at this little thing that I did, and then as we've gone on, I try not to think about it too much. I just try to tell the story I want to tell. And because that way lies madness. Like, I'm grateful for everything they've done, but if I totally dwell too much on it, it kind of freaks me out. And the reality is they could let me go tomorrow. They could let me go. I don't own these toys, and I sent them like a 3-year outline. I'm like, here, this is what I want to do. And I think that it was like, there was like a sentence, there was a log line for every issue. And like, this is what the cover should look like. And I think they were like, oh, you're crazy. And I'm like, yeah, you should just let me do this as long as I can,
Right.
And
I was about to ask you how far out you have
with a 3-year plan. With a 3-year plan, does that take you to Flash 800? Should you get to be there?
I have a plan for Flash 800 that I think everybody's going to really enjoy. If I can
you tell us more about that?
No, no, not at all. Because they just had another merger, Discovery, Warner Brothers. So who knows what tomorrow will bring. In the meantime, I'm writing as fast as I can because I want to get as much as I can out there. I'm really excited for the kind of event idea that I came up with, and I think people really dig it. And I'm just trying.
You actually tweeted. Now the Dark Crisis was originally announced as 3 issues, then they tacked on a 4th. So is the 4th kind of like an epilogue type of a thing, or?
It's right in the mix of what's going on in Dark Crisis. In traditional Flash style, it's like, and this is what the speedsters are doing, which both has impact in what's going on to give you kind of an overview of what's happening in the world. I got to be careful so I don't get killed. But also addresses some of the other. I give some character moments and some Easter eggs for stuff that's upcoming. And then after that issue is probably one of my favorite Flash.
I was going to ask you. You tweeted about that. You said it was probably your favorite issue that you've written.
Yeah, Fernando and I've been working on it for a while, and it's so ridiculous. And again, there are certain things I do that I'm just like, I cannot believe they're letting me do this. It's like, I think Flash 776 was one where it was the, rotate the book and blow on the stuff.
Oh my God, that was fun.
I was like, I can't believe they're letting me do this. And then the one I wrote with my daughter, I kept thinking, they've got to stop me, and so I've been having
the one with Irie in the museum.
Yeah. And she and my daughter had drawn all the pictures and sent it to the artist, and we broke it on a whiteboard, and I just showed her how to do stories and stuff. And originally, she was supposed to be able to have her name on it, but legally, I guess they couldn't. So I waited until
they would have to cut her a big old paycheck.
I did, and she's barely spending that money. Like, and my youngest, so she's 9 now. My youngest daughter, who's 5, is like, when do I get to write a comic book? And she came in the other day and she's like, Jelly Bean Man, this is the bad guy. I'm like, oh gosh, no, we gotta wait a little bit. Because she will immediately go to like the dollar store and be like, I'm spending it all on Dollar Tree, action figures or something. So I do want to do something with her. I just have to think up the right thing,
So let's flip on back to Flashpoint Beyond, because you have 3 issues left, right?
Yeah.
And you guys have so many things going on right now. I'm like, how are they going to fit all this? You have, where did the world come from? The Kryptonians are going to invade the Earth. The Clockwork Killer, all of the Time Masters. It's like, wow.
Harvey's wife and child, 2 separate.
Yeah, Harvey's wife and child. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's we have put a lot into it. It's funny because there's a lot of people that haven't picked it up, and I think they're starting to hear about it. There's a lot happening in that book. And
absolutely.
It's almost like it's not gonna conclude there. It's almost like it's really gonna bleed over somewhere else. I don't know.
Yes.
Conclude over there.
And, that's exactly right. And Tim and I had originally come up with this idea that was closer to kind of what the Loki TV show ended up being.
No, I'm glad you didn't.
Well, it would have been better. No, but we kind of like pitched this idea, like, hey, we want to do this thing. It'd be really cool. And they're like, well, if you're messing with the Flashpoint Beyond universe, we should see if Jeff wants to do it. And of course, Tim and I are like, huh? Like is that a real possibility?
Yeah, which Jeff?
Yeah. And so they said, we'll check with him. And he's like, yeah, sure. And so we met him, and I was like, this is so weird because he's so nice. And he, again, he was like, no, it doesn't need to be just this story. It needs to be something that there needs to be a reason, we're here. It's not just, oh, we're telling a story. It's we're doing something that's important. And I think as we've seen it go on, it's also Jeff continuing a story, from, like we said, Doomsday Clock and all these other things. But it's really fun. It's really fun to see, like, throw out a crazy idea. And I love it if I can stump him on something. And it's been great. I mean, it's really, really been great. And I feel like people know that it, especially after the last issue. They're like, what? So it's great.
It was that issue was my read of the week, just due to like the hype level it gave me.
Right.
And Dark Crisis that came out this week as well had the moment of the week when Deathstroke attempted to shoot Dick Grayson.
Yeah. And John,
attempted.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Not even that.
You have your father's timing.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That was great. But then when like Cyborg Superman shows up, I was like, what?
Yeah,
it's not serious.
Yeah.
Really
You give Cyborg a bad name.
Yeah. I love that.
I do want to ask a personal question. After reading Flashpoint Beyond issue number 1, I thought to myself, what did Barry do to hurt you?
Oh, Barry. I love
that
Barry.
Was so savage, my man. Savage.
We talked about it, and it was funny because it was just a perfect way to make sure you knew as a reader that you don't know what's going on.
Oh yeah, that came through loud and clear.
Yeah, and it was it's so dark.
It was just brutal too. It wasn't like someone died. It was brutal.
No.
Even
I like Barry. I mean, despite what other people think, I love Barry. I love all the speedsters. I love these characters, but Flashpoint Beyond is a different animal, man. And
is this the same? Are we to assume that this is the same exact Thomas Wayne that dissolved away in Justice League Incarnate?
Like, I guess
dissolved there.
Find out.
Oh, Christ. I didn't even think that was a question you couldn't answer. I thought that's one that you could. I mean, like,
no.
Goes away here, shows up here.
And is this the same? Is this the same Reverse Flash that's been cut from north to south that has the snot beaten out of him on page 1 of your Dark Crisis Flash?
Well, I mean, Flash and Reverse Flash in himself is kind of an interesting paradox, and we talked about that.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
And so that's all I'm going to say there.
Yeah.
I mean, I gotta tell you, this is half the fun. Is knowing stuff that you guys know.
I think all the questions really come down to one simple answer that Subject 1 gave us in his first dialogue in this last issue. And everything matters.
Everything matters.
I mean, dude, I'm a continuity hound. Like, I just track stuff down, and that's like so fun when you actually read enough of the books that you can do it. Like, that's been one of the most enjoyable things that they've been leaning into and just playing with this Omniverse. Yeah. And it's really no different than how things have always been. All of this stuff exists inside of this comic book world. It's just up to the writers to choose to reach out and grab it when they want to. So nothing's changed at all, but it's just fun that they're actually playing with it. It's causing you to want to look deeper into stuff and really dissect the books you're reading. And I've been having a ball with it.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Yeah, no, I listen, I mean, even with the Superman of this version was like, we talked about, he could be evil, but we've seen Red Sun.
Yeah,
he has every right to be horrible, and we're like, no, but what if he's still kind of Superman? What if
Yeah, I
he's
thought that was
still
cool because it
Superman?
was Thomas who's like longing for his son. He can't imagine how under any situation that this lost child wouldn't want his father, no matter what the situation, but he still holds true. He's like,
Right.
that's not right.
I mean, it's the exact
Yes.
counterpoint. Yeah, it was exact counterpoint to what Thomas is doing, because Thomas just wants he'll do anything to get his son back, you know,
Mhm.
and he's like, you know, in Thomas's mind, it's like Jor-El, in a way, it's like he's your dad. He
Yeah.
did this thing, you know, and it's just like, nope.
Nope. I appreciated Superman staying true to Superman. As you
Yeah.
can see, I'm kind of a Superman fan myself.
Well, you are gonna love Super Sons then, I think.
Oh, I'm sure I will.
Because you know, I'm a diehard Donner Superman fan, and I think his greatest power is empathy, you know, and much like Wally in a way, but it's like he reaches and looks for the best in people, and the Super Sons movie is definitely more of a heartfelt.
What did Damien call him in that trailer? He's like, all right, Justice Dweebs, let's do this
Justice
or something.
Dweebs.
He says, "Hey, farm boy, let's go save our dads." Yeah, he says to yes, there are other characters in this thing, but
Yeah, he's getting ready to fight the Justice League that were starroed out. What do you call him, Paul?
What do
You
I
call
call
him
him?
like no, what
Just
is
Justice
he
Dweebs.
did. He called him Justice.
Yeah, it
Dweebs.
was Justice League. That got me pumped.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, this
dude.
is
Wait till you see
Damien
Lois
is
Lane,
wild.
man. This is a Lois Lane that I feel like I got, and I was like, I love her. She is not nice. She's Mama Bear, you know, and it's like that's exciting to me. So
Yeah, we're seeing some Mama Bear stuff over in Tom Taylor's Kal-El right now. She's
I want to
tough
grab a
over
couple
there.
questions from the chat too, because we said that we would. So Burke wants to know what team do you want to write that you haven't gotten to yet?
I pitched on a couple things like that no one's really bought. I mean, you know, I would love to do some stuff that after getting kind of like that Hook and Roy, I would love to do something in the Arrow universe. Obviously, Ted Kord Blue Beetle would be huge, and I would love to do something with all the Beatles. You know,
Do you have any desire to work on the squad?
There was at one point talk of me doing the squad, and my pitch was very similar to something else that ended up happening, but it ended up, you know, falling by the wayside. I don't know. I wouldn't mind doing it. It's just if I was going to pick, it's so hard. It's so hard because I'm such a fan for so long of different things. But in the DC universe, I want to get the stuff that are like low on the totem pole, the stuff that no one's thinking about. Like give me the characters that you don't want, you know, and let me play with them. And I would love to see if I can make them spark to life. You know, I would love to do a Green Lantern, obviously. Give me like a peculiar team book would be great. Yeah. So what else? What Golden Age book?
Scott from Waterside has Golden Age book like to have written.
So does this count? Because I would love to do a Dan Garrett Blue Beetle book. I think that would be so righteous. You know, I don't even know if the rights are correct on that. But if another Golden Age, Jay Garrick, you know,
And we're seeing a little bit of him finally popping up.
Yeah, and I like.
Now he's
that,
the only one who
like,
hasn't gone in. He's the only one who hasn't gone to one of the worlds. He's still back.
Yeah, he
with
chased
Mr.
after
Terrific.
the twins. Yeah, he chased after the twins, and we don't know what happened to him yet.
Right.
But like, I liked, you know, him punching Hitler instead of Wally punching Hitler in my run. I like Jay Garrick a lot. I've written him in you know, different media in the JSA, World War II, and
No, that's another thing like that's worth touching on as well with the JSA. Like that's another property that's been just getting kicked down the road since their return proper in Doomsday Clock. I'm like huge JSA fans over here. Both of us are like,
yep.
And then we get the Stargirl Spring Break special, which was shockingly amazing. And they teased a series that again gets shelved, and now we're supposed to be getting the return of the JSA somewhere during this event. Hopefully it'll come
Dark
through.
Races, the next Dark Races comic, supposedly Dark Races number 3.
See, I'm a little nervous because dealing with the crisis. Who knows when, where, what capacity it'll show up, or if it'll be the JSA proper return. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean,
that's something that tell the flagpole you were talking about to get their head out of their flagpole and get us the JSA.
Yeah, Jeff's JSA run was so good.
Yes.
So good.
Yes. And that's another one of those times that shows you that everything matters, because just out of left field, Jeff reaches out and grabs Mark Waid's Kingdom Come Earth and brings it into continuity just like that.
Yep.
I'm like, dude, that's amazing. Like,
Yeah. Pop's Attic, by the way, yes, it is a burden to know that every time you put my name into Google, it's going to be this dead guy from the Revolutionary War or whatever.
Well, I was, when you were talking before about your dad, and you were like,
Yeah.
he was an artist in the 70s and the 80s. I'm like, Neil Adams is his dad?
Oh my gosh, no. He had done some this limited series called Ghost with Dr. 13, and the Spectre showed up. But then he did 5 or 6 issues or around there of Captain Atom near the run in the 80s, and at Alpha Flight and some other stuff. So yeah, he had done some of that stuff. So I'd always grown up with comic books and stuff, but I didn't really know what he had done. I just knew that was kind of something he did on the side, I guess.
So anything else that we haven't talked about that you would like to tell us that's coming down the pike for you? Anything?
I got a couple movies coming out this year, and The Flash is ongoing. There's a couple other comic things that might be showing up at some point. But I'm, more than anything, I'm just thrilled that people have been really responding to The Flash, and it's been, I don't know, it's been remarkable. It's been really fun, and I love it. I said originally when I started, the implicit threat was like, hey, as long as I'm writing it, Wally's going to be fine. But, if I leave, who knows? He could die. So you better buy that book. You better buy that book just for Wally's sake, just for Wally's sake. I mean, it's funny how even increments of hundreds and 1,000 sell, like comic books, can really change what they want to do with the comic books. So it's I'm really glad people are excited about it, and I think bigger things are coming, really fun things, really exciting things in the Flash comic, and it'll be interesting.
We haven't really even touched upon the fact that Linda has powers and how that's going to work out.
Linda has powers. That's right.
I do have one more quick question though. With Future State, how we had like the old man Barry and Wally was possessed by famine and all that.
Yeah.
Some of the Future State stuff has come to fruition. Some of it gets diverted. Is that completely diverted and that's just in the past now?
Yeah, I don't want to. Wally's is going to be fine. I mean, at least in that famine thing. I love Brandon. Brandon wrote it. Maybe talk to me in 2 years when I run out of ideas. But it was like, I just feel like Wally as a character has been kicked so much, and I really wanted to give him a period of time
to heal.
Yeah, and it's really about healing the fandom. Yeah, exactly. Support me, or I'm not saying I'll kill Wally. I'm just saying someone will kill Wally. I would never kill Wally. I'm gonna wear next week. I should get a shirt and be like, say, "Heroes in Crisis didn't happen" in front of Tom King. No, I'm joking.
That can be a sore subject for him at times.
Like I said, I've never met him, so I don't know. I
was watching a live stream with him on an interview, and Bert pissed him off by talking about it.
No, did he?
It was hilarious, yeah, because he had talked about it already.
I think he understands. He understands that you guys are just caretakers, right? You guys are caretakers, right?
Yeah, they're not our toys. Yeah,
exactly. And somebody could come along and undo everything that you did. If it makes for a good story. If it makes for a good story, then I think everybody wins, because you had the original, which was a great story, right, and you have something on top of that as well.
Right. I mean, listen, Jean Grey in X-Men comics, right? Like, how many years had she been dead? And then they resurrect her for X Factor, and then it's like so and so forth. It's like, it's just part of the world of comic books. You need to buy all the comics, Burke.
Right.
Players. Buy them all.
I just I want to take an opportunity. We just want to thank you for coming on, for being, you are You are one of the most accessible, friendly. I mean, I love watching you, like the things that you post on Twitter, like when you get your comps, you're like, I got my comps.
I never know if it's too much or it's too little, and I'm always afraid because it can turn on a dime. I do one thing wrong, I become a pariah. I know how it is.
Ooh, that was punny.
Welcome to the Flash world, buddy.
There you go. But seriously, thank you very much for coming on.
Yes.
We really appreciate it. We had a great
Thank you
time.
guys so much.
Yeah, maybe at the end of Dark Crisis, maybe we can have you back if you're willing. So
We'll see how everybody reacts.
Exactly.
And then
we promise to leave the pitchforks and torches back home.
When you see suddenly I deactivate my Twitter account, you'll know. Maybe not. Well, thank you guys so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's going to do it for this issue of Dark Crisis Deep Dive. Don't forget to like, subscribe, but don't forget to hit the notification button. If you're not following Jeremy, he is Space Kicker on Twitter and Instagram, correct?
Yep.
So make sure you follow Dell. And you can see him when he geeks out when he gets his comps. So
yes, exactly. Totally.
You are now leaving Sector 2815.